Hello, so we are here for the Belfast Met Women in IT interview panel. So we'll just jump straight in. I'm Stephanie, I'm a part-time lecturer at Belfast Met in cybersecurity, and we're just going to go around the table and introduce everybody and find out how you got into technology. So Ruth, if you want to start.
My name is Ruth Sloan. I am a lead architect at the BBC and BBC Northern Ireland. I got into technology from school really. So at secondary school I was in our technology class and started to do bits and pieces with electronics for GCSE, for A-levels, and just loved it, and had a really supportive technology teacher who said, you absolutely should go into this. So I did. So I went to Queen's University, did electronic engineering, and while I was doing placements and stuff, did a placement at Ulster Television as was. Met a load of engineers while I was there who told me that the BBC was a really good place to go and cut your teeth and learn stuff, and I've been there ever since.
Great, so quite a traditional route into IT. Elaine, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Elaine Donaldson and I am a lecturer in computing and cyber in Belfast Met. My route into tech was quite similar to Ruth. Secondary school, when we first got our first computer classes, I asked my teacher what else computers could do because I was playing games on them, and that piqued my interest, and he showed me around computers. As a result of that, I done a degree at Queen's University, Business and IT, and it was in the IT modules that I excelled in because of my interest in IT. My area then was web development and networking. As a result of that interest, I decided to pursue a PGCE in IT with Bristol University, and in the university I got awards for creating interactive learning materials for the classes, and from then I have taught 20 years ago. I have taught IT at secondary, FE and HE level.
Great, wow, that's very impressive teaching career. And Emma, what about you?
Yes, so my name is Emma Irwin and I am a service desk manager over in BT. I did not have a traditional route into IT, so I have a drama degree and I have a master's in communication, public relations and advertising, and then I joined BT on a commercial management graduate scheme, and then I joined managed service, and then from there I fell in love with everything that the team do. So we are the managed service wrap for companies, so we support critical national infrastructure, secure customers, commercial customers, and I absolutely love what I do, and it just really wasn't the route that I thought that I was going to go down. I didn't know about it all, because when I was sort of growing up, that wasn't really where I was directed to, but I'm so pleased to be in the tech industry now.
Yeah, quite a similar story with a lot of women in IT. I think they do kind of just work their way across the different sectors until they end up here, but it's great. Yeah. Holly, what about you?
Yeah, my name's Holly. I'm a cybersecurity apprentice at BT. I went to high school and did my GCSEs, and I always loved ICT from there, and I grew up, my dad and my brother are big into IT, so it was always something I knew I kind of wanted to do. So I went on to do the level 3 in Belfast Met themselves, doing the cybersecurity, and from there just went into the apprenticeship, and I love it. Currently I'm a firewall engineer in BT and it's going great.
Great, amazing. And then what about you, Emma?
Yeah, my name's Emma Dunn and I'm a higher level apprentice in cybersecurity at Northern Ireland Water. I had this same kind of story as Holly. I grew up and I did GCSEs. My dad was in IT, so he kind of directed me that way, and he was like, I think you should do this. And then I wasn't really interested whenever he first told me, so then I decided to do work experience in IT. So once I did that, I was like, I want to go into cyber. So I did that, and then same as Holly, I went into level 3 and I did cybersecurity at Belfast Met, and then now I'm a network security engineer at Northern Water.
Great. I actually forgot to do mine. So mine's the same as yours. My dad was very into IT, so I did it in school, then did it in university, worked for a while, and then now I'm a lecturer at Belfast Met. So we've got quite a good range here of people going in the apprenticeship route, people going the more kind of traditional school, university, and then we've got Emma who just made your way across to end up here. So quite a good mix. So the first question that we're going to talk about is that I think the average across all technology, not just IT, is about 31% of the industry is women. So do any of you have any idea why you think that is, or what kind of blocks are in the way that do prevent women getting into IT?
I do think there's barriers to entry for women getting into IT. There's definitely a gender bias.
Yes.
And the belief that tech is a male-dominated role, as well as the fact that there is no real female mentors in IT in Northern Ireland. I don't think that helps as well. And with women with the work-life balance, I think that deters them progressing within the field of IT.
Yeah, definitely. Would any of you ever had a female mentor in IT? I'm supposing you actually would, because you're obviously the manager in her department. But maybe us four, would you have ever had a female IT mentor?
Yeah, so I actually did. So our director, the service operations director, is female, and she was my mentor throughout when I joined the apprenticeship scheme, or no, the graduate scheme, sorry. And she kind of navigated me way through, telling me all about sort of things that I kind of had to catch up on because I hadn't learnt it at school. So she was really a guiding light as to get to me to where I am now. But I would say that if you were to ask anybody, name a few CEOs in the tech industry, people say Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, they'll give you Steve Jobs, and they won't really have any of those sort of female CEOs. But now actually at BT we do have the first female CEO, Alison Kirkby, and she came over to Belfast to meet us all a couple of weeks ago, and just to sort of see her passion, and it's really nice, refreshing to sort of feel that she's really driving BT Group globally. It's really, really inspiring.
Great. And then what about you, Ruth? Would you have ever had a female mentor?
No. So my route was into a room full of engineers who were primarily men. There was myself and maybe 2 other women in the room. And it was consistently being the only woman in the room in every meeting, in every call that happened, and so on. So as I progressed sort of through the job, it has gotten better. There are much more now, especially from apprenticeships. Actually, I find apprenticeships is a really good way for women to get into the field. It seems to be, I don't mean easier, but a more accessible pathway.
Yeah.
But no, I was consistently the only woman in the room. I'm hoping that's changing now. Our CISO in the BBC now is a woman.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. She's really open with her time and willing to help the women kind of coming up around her. And I hope to be in that position myself one day to be the person that people come and ask, what is it I should be doing? So, not to blow down trumpet, but but you can't be what you can't say.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's one of the things that as you said, the female role model thing is such an important thing. Yeah. If you don't know that you can do it, why would you even try?
Yeah. I mean, for me, Elaine, you were one of the first women that I saw in IT, because I went from working in industry, being the only woman coming to teach, and then you were the only woman teaching.
Yes.
So I think you were the first kind of female mentor in IT that I actually ever saw, which is great. Full circle, because we're here now. Okay. So anyone else have anything they want to add, either of yous?
Yeah, I would say in high school my ICT teacher was a female, and
great.
she kind of directed me and said, I think you should go into IT, it's good. And then obviously came here, and Elaine was my teacher, and she was very strong about getting the apprenticeship and being a woman in IT.
Yeah.
And then our CEO in Northern Ireland Water, she's a woman.
Amazing.
So she always comes and she does women, because obviously it's a male dominated workplace, so she always comes and does women, strong women things, and I don't know how to put it, strong women things in Northern Ireland Water. So we just did a Sisters In event, which is going into a male dominated workplace. She was there and just kind of talking to sixth form girls and being it's a great place to go into, don't feel scared, don't feel pressured about being surrounded by men, it's actually really great. And I felt really welcomed personally. I don't know about you, Holly.
Yeah, I think it's, again, similar experience to Emma. I had a female ICT teacher, but I think the first real sort of woman in IT was yourself, Elaine, just coming into...
Elaine, you're inspiring a generation.
And even in BT, as I said, I had Emma as a manager for a year, and Emma was completely, always guided me in the right way and helped me grow, and I feel like I'm a much more confident person now thanks to Emma and my female mentors in BT. But yeah,
it's great. The difference that you 3 have kind of compared to us 3 is night and day, but it's amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah. I was just actually thinking that as probably one of the older members of the team here. I can say that there was no women in STEM or IT. I was always the first in all my teaching classrooms.
Yes.
and one of the first women in this team. I'm
Yeah.
glad to see that there's now you, Stephanie, and obviously there's Christine as well.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that the younger generation have people
Yes.
that they can look up to in IT now, because that certainly wasn't my experience.
And
Yeah,
you feel like it's
exactly.
accessible as well. There was a certain amount of, I don't know if you felt this, but the sort of amount of, well, I'm going and I will be doing that, and even if I am the only woman in this room, I'd show all of you.
Yes, there definitely is.
Like a bit of a fight, almost.
That's it. So I'd be better than all of you. What do you say?
Yeah.
I was told when I first talked about in the 90s going into IT that IT was not what girls went into. It was suggested that girls go into teaching, hairdressing, nursing, and I was actively persuaded to not go into it, hence the reason why I done a business and IT degree, because that actually made me nervous, but I'm glad I followed my instinct.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm quite lucky that I had my dad, it's probably similar to you, I had my dad pushing me as well, because it was the same with me. Careers, teachers would advise not to go into IT, but because I had my dad, I went into it, and I am very glad.
My favourite part of it all was always, oh, you're an engineer?
So kind of bouncing off that then, do you think IT carries a stereotypical image? And I'm thinking that yous might have a slightly different view because yous are in with more women, whereas I think with us, when I was younger, the stereotypical view for me was a man. And in my head it was actually a man in a room programming away like this, and I think that's just not true at all.
In a suit and tie with the sleeves rolled up in the soldering iron.
Yes, exactly. But would you agree? Do you think there's a bit of a stereotypical image for IT?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was kind of coming into the world in the first place, the guy who told me that the BBC was the place to go to was exactly the stereotype that I had imagined. You know, he was a lovely man, name's Alan, but he wore a suit, he wore a tie, and he wore a suit and tie every day coming into work, and that is exactly what I expected. It's totally different now. You know, there's much more kind of casual environment, or some people still wear suits and ties. They do still exist, but it's not what it was beforehand. Yeah. But you do have that image of the man in a tie.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I feel like growing up, even though my dad and my brother were into IT, so even though I saw them and they were so encouraging that it could be a path for me, I feel like my initial stereotype was always, okay, it's a man, maybe in a suit, in meeting rooms just on their computers, but growing up through GCSEs and even here, like, you quickly learn that that's not the case and it shouldn't have to be the case.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think something we were talking about earlier on was, the typical image that you see would be a bunch of white men in suits standing like this.
The photographs on the websites, the wall of white men in white suits. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it can be quite hard to see yourself for any woman in that kind of industry, but then especially for like women of colour, queer women, I do think it's even more different. But what we've been talking about today, it's great to know that's changing.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, there's a Pixar short called Pearl? Have you ever seen it?
I've seen it.
It's
Great.
It's amazing. It's about a ball of yarn who goes to work in an office. It's a pink ball of yarn, and it assimilates itself by knitting itself into a businessman in a suit and tie, and then realises that it has changed itself completely and becomes a ball of yarn again. And then other balls of yarn start to work there because they see the ball of yarn. When I first saw that, I cried at it.
There you go. Everyone watch Pearl for some motivation to get into a male-dominated industry. No, it definitely is. And even like that movie, the Facebook movie, The Social Network, that's a completely male team. The only women in that movie are the kind of side characters. So it's kind of social media, it's marketing, it's movies that kind of give us that stereotype. But again, it's good to know that it is changing quite a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. You can feel that it is changing. Like, we're here, we're doing things like this,
Exactly.
and like all of this wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
No.
Like, it's definitely on the right path, I would say.
Yeah. You would have been hard pressed to find six women to come into your room and talk about IT.
Six women IT, but it's definitely changing. I've seen it in my generation. Ruth and I have said this. We've seen it because we did not have female role models to look up to, and as the girls have said that they, and yourself, Stephanie, that there is female role models out there to look up to encourage other people into IT and into STEM, into the male-dominated I suppose professions, and it is changing with the different initiatives that we're doing, such as girls in IT, women in IT, and having more mentorship opportunities for females on opportunities like this.
Did your school promote women in IT? And if they didn't, do you think they would now?
I'd say my school didn't. Like,
No.
my secondary school definitely didn't.
No.
It was kind of just like, oh, you're going into IT, okay, go do it. And then I feel like, I don't know if they do now, but I would hope that they would.
Yeah.
But I don't keep up with them, so I don't know. But then I'd say whenever I came into Belfast Met, it was definitely encouraged, especially from Elaine, and like walking in and just being like, I can do IT as a woman.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my journey, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So would have hoped a bit more promotion,
Yeah.
but you know what? We're getting
Yeah,
there. Belfast
I'd hope
now,
so, yeah.
we've got the promotion. Would it have been
Yeah.
the same for you in school?
It would have been pretty similar, yeah. I feel like my school did a few things. There was like sort of, you know, Bring It On would come into the school and you'd see there'd be pop-ups, but usually you'd just see it swarmed with all the guys going over to it, so you'd be like, oh, maybe stay away from that one. But definitely the switch from high school to the Met was so different, even in terms of when I feel like whenever you go up through school, it's like you have to go to uni.
Yeah.
But in the Met, it's like there are apprenticeships out there, and it's not a bad thing to do an apprenticeship. So I feel like that definitely helped, and I feel like I would have been in a totally different place if I didn't come to the Met, to be honest.
Yeah, well, my sister, she's in IT, and she did a software engineering course, and whenever she was writing up her like personal statement as to what she wanted to do, the careers teacher circled the word IT or it, and she brought it to her and said, what is it? You need to pick what you want to do. You can't just say it, you need to pick something. And she went, it's IT. And then that was a whole conversation around that. And I think that if you were interested as well in sort of like maths or sciencey type areas, you were kind of forced into looking at like mechanical engineering or stuff, whereas actually maths and all that kind of stuff is a good big part of like, you know, working in IT and things. So if you do have those interests, there are definitely different avenues that you can take other than like the doctors, or, you know, it is a whole industry in itself that I feel when I was kind of in school wasn't really looked at and wasn't really well known. So we were kind of pushed into different areas, and if you liked the English side of things, or if you liked media, it was actually more Englishy based type things rather than looking at the whole world of IT.
Very similar to me, and I imagine probably very similar to both of you as well. No IT for girls in school.
I went to a girls' school, and I was actively persuaded to not go into IT because that IT was not something the girls went into. This was the 90s. And I like to think things have changed. I know things have changed now because IT is now being brought into the Key Stage 3 syllabus and into the primary syllabus now. And I think that things like Coder Dojo and Cyber First helps bring it into primary and secondary and helps it become more available. We now live in a technological generation. Kids know about IT from a very, very young age now, so it's in the interest of schools to try and incorporate that as much as possible into their lessons.
We've just talked about the challenge of there not being any kind of motivation to push girls in school to go into IT. So on top of that, once you're in the industry, can you think of any challenges that you think women would face while in industry?
I mean, certainly from my perspective, I was in school in the 90s as well, so the whole kind of girls did home ec, boys did programming. Was very prevalent at the time. Whilst I did, you know, bits and pieces within business studies classes, you would get access to computers to do database work and things like that. That was pretty much as it was. But for the fact that I had the technology class, I was able to get into it, and I had a real the vice principal of the school pushed me forward to a women in STEM and engineering course in my lower sixth of secondary school. But from a challenge perspective, it's that breaking into that kind of mentality. If it has been all the boys in the class for the years and years and years, not to use the old boys network as a term, but you know, they all know each other. Northern Ireland's pretty small. So you've got these groups of men that have all kind of come up together, and we're trying to suck in from the side going, hi, I have better degree than you. You know what I mean? You know, you're trying to break your way into this group of people that already know each other, and thankfully that is changing because, you know, even from a recruitment standpoint, that is changing. You know, the way that people hire now, you know, you don't have to have the 16 years of experience to be able to do something. There's values based interviews. There's, you know, making sure that you have the experience from one way or another. But the problem that it was when we were younger was that it was not that it wasn't promoted to girls, but it's that it wasn't cool to do it. There's an age that we get to as women that we kind of drop off in schools. Maybe this is a question for later on, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but there's an age that we get to where it's not cool to do this kind of work anymore, and it's your hormones go crazy, and you decide, no, I'm going to go over here and like, do this instead, and it sounds stereotypical, but it does happen to a lot of people, and it's keeping the interest in it up in schools from an early enough age that it doesn't get to the point where they go, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah, that's not for me. I don't do that. And I think that starts at primary school. Yeah. Definitely. To keep that interest up so that you don't have that challenges when you get to our age or to your age of trying to break into it because you dropped off for 5 years. You don't have the same experience. That's just something.
No, definitely. I think bouncing off that for me, something that I found in university and then kind of going into my first job a little bit was being underestimated. I think because a lot of people assume because you're a woman, you've not gained. You've not been interested in building computers and things like that. So I think a lot of people assume you don't know what you're talking about, you're brand new to it. So I think that would be a big thing, and the confidence to kind of have to stand up and be like, actually, no, I do know what I'm talking about. And I think it's hard to do that when, again, you're the only woman in the room.
The gaming part's so interesting.
The gaming part's
Trying
big.
to get onto games in lobbies full of men. Teaching boys to not talk to women in certain ways would be a nice thing. Teach your boys.
Teach your boys. Yeah.
I have to agree with you, Stephanie. I've always sort of felt like I've had to prove myself in IT throughout my career. I did not actually go straight into teaching. Whenever I graduated, I had a few years where I was trying to decide where I wanted to do, and I did work in IT, and I've always had to prove myself in IT. I did know at one stage I was underpaid in IT in comparison to my male counterpart, even though I felt like I was having to work a lot harder just to prove my knowledge in IT.
I feel like there's quite the same sort of idea behind like the whole imposter syndrome when you're actually there and you feel like, do I deserve to be here, because you don't really see anybody else. Like, yes, we do have those role models, but not every, it's still definitely a male dominated area, so you do kind of question, why am I here? Am I meant to be here? Is this the path that I'm meant to be on? Because I did start off as a graduate and then moving on to become a manager, and I was I'm the manager now of people who've been in the business for 50 years, men that have been there for 50 years, and I'm thinking, what can I give, but that is also a key part of it. So all of my experience and everything I've learned in communications, I can bring that as well. So it's not just like the tech side that I've had to learn and catch up on. I can bring every part of me, and I'm there because all of the different things that I can bring to IT and move that field forward.
That's such a great point. The fact that you're bringing yourself to that job, you can learn tech, but you're there because of who you are. That's a brilliant point.
I feel like another thing as well is it's a common misconception that, say you're one woman in a group of apprentices that got hired, that's, oh, you got the job because you're a girl. And I kind of don't like that, because I don't want to believe it's true either. So you start to then think, did I actually get that because I was a girl, or did they see how hard I worked for it? And
I was always told whenever I was going down the IT route that if I went for the same job as a man, I would get it because I was a woman. And that kind of like put something in the back of my mind, was like, am I just getting it because I'm a woman, or is it because I'm getting it because I'm good enough? And I was always told that. I was told that multiple times by people, and I was just like, don't say that to me.
No, I think as well something that really is coming across here is like almost like the language that would be used, and the way that it's like women in IT are talked about and things like that. Like, like I think the token woman is something that's thrown out quite a lot, and it can kind of make you feel like, oh, am I only here because I am a woman? So I think thinking about as well for the men already working in IT, something for them to think about maybe is, how does your language affect the women around? Like, how do you input to the feeling that women don't have a place in IT? So
that's really important all around. There's a lot of language that's used even in programming that is quite problematic. So that's a great point.
Exactly. But anyway, on to the good stuff now. So we're going to have a quick chat about the opportunities that are available. So I think we've already talked, Elaine, you brought up IT girls, women in tech, talked about Bring It On. Any of you ever made use of any of these opportunities? I think, Emma, you...
Yeah, so we have Women Talk Tuesdays. So on the Tuesday of the every month we meet up and we just kind of connect and network together and learn about the challenges, talk about what we've got coming up, but also because it's such a big business as well, we kind of learn different areas and things and hear about what they're doing. But it's really nice way to sort of build your team of women around you to be like, oh, I can reach out to them, and then if you post anything on like social media, you know, on LinkedIn, everyone likes it and we all just support each other, and it's just really building those relationships to sort of keep us going really.
Yeah, definitely. And then you both came in the apprenticeship route. Do you feel like that was a big opportunity for you as well? Yeah.
I feel like it was, yeah. Especially even being an apprentice in BT, there's so many apprentices. I think we have about 15 now, so there's so many people you can go to, mix of boys and girls. I would say it's almost equal. Like there's a lot of people you can go to when you need help with anything, and you're not judged or put down, especially in our business, I feel anyway. So.
Great.
I would say I'd be the same as Holly. I was obviously in a male-dominated workplace as well, and I was like 1 out of 3 girls that were like an apprentice in Northern Ireland Water in my intake, and I felt very welcomed actually. I didn't expect it at all. I thought I was going to go in and be like the only girl, kind of just keep to myself, but I was very welcomed. And then recently I've been like brought on board for Sisters In, which is like bringing sixth form girls into like know about going into male dominated workplace. So we had an event on Tuesday and there was like Open Reach and Fire Service and the PSNI, and they were all just stands, and they would come over and ask you like, why should I go into a male dominated workplace, and you're kind of encouraging them, you know, don't be scared, like it's okay to go into it, and just because it's men, you know, don't feel pressure. So I'd say that would be my experience. So
great. Yeah.
BBC, we so internally, same as you guys, we have a YSTEM network, we have a Women in the BBC network, as well as other staff networks like Pride, Embrace and so on for different groups, which gives you a really nice opportunity to meet different people across the business. There's a real danger, probably the same with you guys, of being siloed into the wee area that you work in. Mm-hmm. So it gives you an opportunity to reach out to different areas and get to know what other people are doing in different departments and different parts of the UK specifically, because you know, sort of Northern Ireland, this is what we do, but actually there's your equivalent in a different part of the country. You get to know what they're doing and stuff as well. So that's internally. From an external point of view, you know, we're part of the apprenticeship scheme with Belfast Met, and that has been brilliant for us. We have put 3 people through now, but we intend to put a lot more through in the future because it's fantastic, and it gives people opportunities to come in and to learn their trade in ways that wasn't available before. You know, it's yes, you're getting your education, but also you're earning as you learn. Therefore, you've got more of an opportunity to spend the time to learn what you need to learn, and you don't feel as pressurized, you know, as you would have in our traditional kind of route through these sort of things. So I think it's fantastic, and it just gives, especially with caring responsibilities and things like that, anybody who has any kind of extra pressure on them to be able to come in and take that time and do the learning in their own pace whilst doing their job. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Oh, definitely. The apprenticeships are great. A shameless Belfast Met plug. The apprenticeships are absolutely
They are. They absolutely are.
And what about you, Liam? Would you have made use of any opportunities getting into IT?
Well, the opportunities I made were more in recent years. Keeping up your knowledge in IT is one thing that I think employers could do better. So I actually found out about 10 years ago about Northern Ireland Women Who Code. And for anyone that doesn't know about Northern Ireland Women Who Code, it's an organisation anyone can sign up for, and I actually took advantage of a lot of courses to actually update my knowledge through Women Who Code, and then using a lot of the online platforms as well. So it's all about I've really helped myself, but then getting an employer that is strong, that helps you progress yourself. In my time Belfast Met with my employer, I have completed my master's as well, so it's taking advantage of those opportunities.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So we're basically at the end here, so this is our chance to shamelessly plug anything that we feel like we need to. So I've plugged Belfast Met Apprentices. We also have the Belfast IT Girls coming up, which is a great way of getting, I think it's 15 to 17 year olds, isn't it?
Yep.
One of you mentioned Bring It On as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bring It On. They go into schools, go to employer events. What about BBC, BT? Do you have any opportunities you'd like to plug for any girls that are watching?
Yeah.
Or anybody that's watching, to be honest with you?
Yeah, I just want to plug all of the apprenticeships that we do have through Belfast Met. We've got the ones coming up in the cybersecurity space, and then we also have lots of graduate schemes as well for those coming in once they finished university. And yeah, they're the ones I kind of want to plug.
We're going to be hopefully at the Empower event at Windsor Park with Cyber First in April, 30th of April, which would be an interesting event. We're going to have some hopefully interactive bits and pieces of that, and attend the talk part. But apart from that, we've also got the BBC Early Careers website, so any of our apprenticeships that come up will be on that, so just search for BBC Early Careers, you'll find it on there. Our recruitment process starts in sort of September time, so that's when you'll find us.
Perfect. Okay, well, I think that is us. Thank you all so much for joining. It was a great discussion, and yeah, we'll see yous in college and we'll see yous at any employer events that we have.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Chat!